Culture is a word that we are all really familiar with because night and day we all the time listen something is wrong with the culture. Culture is being eroded. High culture, low culture. Whose culture? My culture. This is what we usually come across not only from the elders, from the juniors, from the seniors, from the teachers. And all the time, when we open the papers, there is only one question, हमारी सकाफत पे यलगार हो गई, हमारी सकाफत किसी के नरगे में है. These are the questions that I usually wondered, what's wrong with culture? What is culture, by the way? So any one of you who would jog his mind and come up with the right answer for what is culture. It is very, very difficult to describe culture. Usually, as a nation, we love to define things, and then we stick to those definitions throughout our lives. But you think culture is something that we can easily define? It's something very, very tough. We usually listen to the word of culture at workplace, and we say, organizational culture is deteriorating. But is it the culture which is deteriorating or the organization which is deteriorating? When I started working as the Additional Secretary, Information and Culture Department nearly 1.5 years ago, I also wondered, and these were the same questions that will come to my mind every morning. There were expectations from the policymakers that since I graduated from Australian National University with a social policy master's, I will transform culture and the whole world would be a better place to live. But how, when, and who will do it? These were the questions that I was really intrigued with. Somehow I started, but it was just like starting with the darkness. There is complete silence from where to start and from where to end. These were the questions that really provoked my mind. But of course, culture is important. As a nation, we must have culture. But as a nation, do we have a culture? These are not the political questions. These are the practical questions. Each one of us has a culture. And each one of us has a culture which is unique, distinctive as it does not match anyone else. We just had a discussion about DNA. Culture is like DNA. We all carry our own DNA in the form of a culture. Now, you will think she is defining culture in a very unusual manner. This is not the unusual thing. You just have to take your minds back a few years, back the memory lane, and just think about all the faces that were there around you in the form of your grandmothers, dadis, nanis, and mamus, and many more maternal and paternal relationships. जब आपकी आंखें खुली तो वो लोग आपके इर्द गिर्द मौजूद थे. So what did you learn from them? Did they impart something to you? I'm sure they did. Whatever they imparted, you are the product which is sitting in front of me. But I'm sure they did a good job because you are all accomplished human beings. You are sitting here as an enlightened audience, and I'm sure my grandmother, जैसे हम कहते हैं अल्लाह ताला I'm sure उनको जन्नत में ज़रूर लेके जाएंगे. She would be feeling very proud because she was one of those people who were like a mentor. I really looked up to her. She was always there to console me in the moments of grief. She would share lots of stories with me. I have literally grown up listening to all the stories that she would narrate before I went to sleep. And I'm sure all of you, or some of you, must have experienced these stories narrated by our grannies before we went to sleep. But do you think those sleeps and those stories, they are forgotten? I don't think so. You remember them all your lives. And this is what we call intangible cultural heritage that we inherit from generations. And this is the same heritage that you transfer to the coming generations. I'm sure most of you are married, and those who are not married, I wish them well in life. They will be married sooner or later, and you will be having kids. So the moment you have a kid in your lap, what do you think? You have a kid in your lap, it's a very small baby looking at you. So you all think that this baby will grow up to be a young, sturdy boy or a girl one day. But this is certainly not the thinking that a parent would have. A parent would always like that his kids or children, they may become young, enable-minded citizens, or those who can continue their legacy. But what is the legacy? These are the cultural values that we usually inculcate among our siblings, kids, children, school-going children, and rest of the society. A society's fabric is very much made of these traditions, values, shared beliefs, and practices. Earlier I said that we are all distinctive from each other because we come from a different background, different linguistics, abilities, and different brought up. But at the same time, we do have a collective memory. Now, what is that collective memory? If you listen and you jog your mind, you will certainly share lots of things with each other because normally we don't share. So culture is important because we need to collaborate and share with each other. Sometimes it is said that culture is the best diplomatic tool. Why is it so? In the modern world, when you have a lot of arms and ammunitions, well, certainly sometimes we must not talk against armies because it can become controversial. But still, one must think, when you can easily rule the world with certain diplomatic tools which are contained in the culture policy, why do we need lots of arms and ammunitions? We can easily rule the world by making them see that we are just like them. Though it is a mishmash nowadays because of the globalization, every day there is a new innovation, new movie, new culture coming up. Every generation, every country is passing through these stages because in certain countries, if you see their TV, they won't be showing lots of those programs which are easily available in our country because still they are fighting off the cultural invasion. I don't know for how long they can be successful in fighting off the cultural invasion, but certainly culture has much more positive sides. Think of culture as a tool which can keep the nations united. You must have heard about USA as a melting pot. You must also have heard about Singapore, which is referred to as a multicultural country. And interestingly, there has never been any fight in Singapore just on the cultural issues. What is culture and what are the basic characteristics of culture? Can any one of you describe culture and find out the basic and salient principles of culture? It's very easy to guess. It is the language. These are the oral traditions and the practices that we inherit from our ancestors. These are the crafts that we usually see. And these are those practicing craftsmen and women who always indulge in practicing all those skills which they have inherited from their elders. I don't think there is anything that we did not inherit and that we acquired on our own. Everything is transmitted from generation to generation. This is me, of course, now you can see. But this is a picture which was picked up by TEDx team because they thought that it represents me as a better ambassador of culture somehow. This is the folk studio. Now, you must have heard about Coke Studio. It's not that I want to give a fight or a commercial war with Coke Studio. It's just that folk studio was my brainchild when I started thinking what innovative idea I can implement while working in the culture sector which can leave a mark behind. Like every good government servant, I would always love to leave a mark behind because we are posted from one department or ministry to another very, very quickly. So there is less time to do whatever we can. And the output lied in the folk studio. As you can see the logo, there are wheat, there is like, you can see the strand of wheat, there is this dancing jat, dhol, chimta. These blue waves actually represent the flowing waters in Punjab among lakes and barrages. And then of course there is a lot of green because it is all green. आजकल गंदम की कटाई का मौसम है, so that represents green as well as golden. So this is a symbolic logo, and after designing this logo, we actually went ahead with the execution of our folk studio. Now, you might have heard or seen it on TV sometimes, because folk studio was like inviting folk artists from all across Punjab who will come and perform at Open Air Theatre Lawrence Garden. And Lawrence Garden Open Air Theatre has a long, long history of enriching culture through offering its stage to the promising folk men, women, theater people, musicians, and craftsmen. By the way, just for your general knowledge, there is a convention which is called UNESCO's Convention 2003, and United Nations sometimes felt that there is this danger of extinction. Culture is being eroded, and we need to preserve it. How do we preserve culture? This is certainly interesting. We preserve culture only through its promotion, because something which is being preserved must be promoted at the same time. So this is exactly the principle I had in my mind when I started Folk Studio. So you here see, this is a cultural set, as we usually call it. Or इस set में you can easily recognize lots of things which you must have seen in your own houses. All of you who come from villages, and I'm sure lots of you must be coming from villages, because that is exactly the place that we all come from. And it also shows a very, very deep connection with the land. It is made of clay, and I have a very nice team of very expert kind of people who are good in making this cultural set. And by the way, I would just like to mention, on 23rd March, though it is really early for lots of you to get up when there is this national parade going on, that is mostly dominated as a display of army and its strength. But at the end of the parade, before the helicopter show comes in, you might have seen lots of cultural floats. Those cultural floats, and especially this time, the cultural float was made by my team, since I'm heading the Punjab Council of the Arts as an executive director, plus I have another post, which is the additional secretary culture. So we applied our minds and we came up with the best float ever that was on display in the 23rd March parade. And like a true patriot, I was also on the float and waving the whole nation, and it was a proud moment for me. But this is a set which was established for the Potuhari show. The idea was that Punjab has so much variation, which has never come to the fore. And being Punjabis, I don't know why, but we have this fascination with high culture. We would love to watch opera, we would also follow Oscars, and we can also dance to the best English hits 2018. But somehow we have no passion left for the Punjabi folk music or for the Punjabi Sufi music. So this was an endeavor to bring out whatever is left, whatever was there a few years ago. So this was the set, and then let's go to the next picture. So these lovely ladies on my right and left side, the lady in the red dupatta, she actually plays drums. And this was the first lady I ever came across who can easily play a drum, because usually it is considered that only men play drums. And then I asked her that, like, is it like something which is powerful that you need to play a drum? And she said yes, because she used to apply her hand so forcefully that she actually broke nearly 5 drums while practicing. Anyhow, she calls herself Gudiya Pakistani. And this is a case study for me, because she lives in Rawat, a downtown area where there is no patronization for art and culture. It's no longer an elite's job, as it is done in lots of the capitals or the posh areas of the world, where it is considered as a domain of elites only. No fine arts over here. We see a normal lady who raises her kids. At the same time, she plays drums. And then we have a lady on my right side, and she is also a folk singer. So you can also see me. I was so happy, and I also tried to dress up just like them. So you see these young men at my back in this picture. They are actually from DG Khan. And they are not only from DG Khan, they also have to travel nearly 24 hours to reach DG Khan first, and then you can imagine the rest of the travel to Lahore. These are actually the farmers who grow crops, but for their pastime activities and whatever dancing techniques that they have learned from their ancestors, they actually dance, which of course that was performed at our stage, and they are standing at my back. And for some of them, it was the first time ever that they saw a TV camera, a recording camera like this. And they were so fascinated, of course. They were here, they performed, and it was a delight. And by the way, during this journey, DG Khan was a discovery for me. I never imagined DG Khan so charming, so beautiful, and so enigmatic, the way DG Khan came to the fore. Normally we think that DG Khan, oh, it's a backward place. This is the stereotypical notion that we all carry. I also had the same notion. But as I went ahead, the DG Khan Arts Council came as the most vibrant, most active arts council with the hall full of ladies. That was actually an eye-opener for me, and at the same time, a fulfilling experience. So they came on TV, and interestingly, they were bombarded with all kinds of offers by most of the movie makers and ads makers to come and perform for them, because they usually perform with swords, and they are the real swords, by the way. I actually touched just to understand. And they were bombarded with the offers, and then I realized that we usually talk about the theory, and the theory says that culture leads to economic livelihood. So here was a test case. How does it lead to economic livelihood? One day they perform, and the next morning they get lots of offers. And they had no idea what to do with those offers except asking me, because they thought maybe I'm their patron, they need to seek permission from me. But of course, I also graciously told them to follow their mind. And if they have will and volition, they may go and follow their careers. You can see these lovely ladies sitting with me. These were the girls studying at the university at DG Khan. And it was for the first time ever that they came to Lahore. Not only to Lahore, rather they performed a Jhumar dance. And Jhumar dance is actually done just to greet the guest coming. So it was first time that these girls performed. And at my back you can see a small hut, एक झोंपड़ी जो कि स्टेज का एक हिस्सा बनाई गई, and इनके हाथों में जो है you can easily recognize. So here we have, like, culture is always intriguing and interesting. He says 18 minutes is finished. See, time flies. But thank you so much for being such a patient and enlightened audience for me. It was a pleasure for me to be sharing all these things, and our folk studio continues. And I'm sure I started my speech with the request that we should make this place a better place to live. And culture is all about coexistence, living peacefully, and letting other people live. Thank you so much.